Thank you very much for being so prompt and on time. And now I would like to invite everybody to my sitting room. You've told us during this conference how much you enjoyed the fact that during my tenure, I used to invite you to my home in South Africa virtually, where we had afternoon teas and where we had lovely conversations, and I presented you with some nice South African treats. And I know I also enjoyed it as much as you did to have that global engagement. So as you have enjoyed that so much, and of course it's not going to happen after Friday, I would like now to do the same here this afternoon, as I have invited the mayor to join me for afternoon tea and also to join us. So welcome to this session where we will be having tea and when we will be talking, and we'd like you to be part of this conversation. So please sit back, enjoy, and I am now moving over to my sitting area. So welcome.
Thank you for inviting me into your sitting area.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So this is very nice because I feel like I'm welcoming all of you to Ottawa. I'm very proud to do so, but you're welcoming me into your sitting area and into this conference today. So thank you for welcoming me.
You're welcome. I am so happy that it was possible for you in your very busy schedule. We were just talking about, meetings and family time and everything, and therefore we really appreciate you being here. And a few days ago, we also met. And at that occasion, I actually wanted you to know, and for the members, about the gavel that we are using at world conferences. When I need to call anything to order, you do it in your societies, we do this. But what is important or remarkable about this, and it is written here, that well, this is very small, but I actually wrote it with my, well, glasses, I don't know. Let's see.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, it's not really making a difference, but anyway, this was presented, and this is important, in 1895, and it was presented to the Countess Aberdeen. And what is important, it was presented to her by the local council women of Ottawa.
Really?
And I thought that might be a
Wow.
good point for us to start on. So all the time, we are still using it, and it is really very valuable.
That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's lovely to know we've been a part of your
Yes.
history for so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
And since, speaking about local women, and you told us the other day how large this city actually is. You mentioned about half the size of London. You mentioned Canadian cities like Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, and even Calgary could fit into its municipal boundaries.
Yeah.
That is amazing. But now I would like to ask you, Mayor, can you please tell us more about the rural Ottawa and how you include the perspectives of rural residents in city planning? How do you go about to do that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So hello again, everyone, and thank you again for choosing Ottawa. We're so grateful that you're here, and I think it's really fitting that you're here in Ottawa because the rural component of our city is such a big part of our city. And I think I mentioned the other day, people think of Ottawa when anybody who knows Ottawa will think of the Parliament buildings downtown and the fact that we're the nation's capital, and they'll think of the urban part of our city. But 75% of our city is rural, and a significant number of people live in the rural parts of our city, including Cheryl from Metcalf, who I just met a few minutes ago and is at the conference with us today. I got to know the rural parts of Ottawa. So I grew up in a suburban community, but I got to know the rural parts of Ottawa when I was a broadcaster and a journalist before I became mayor. Long before I became mayor, I worked in the media for a long time, and I hosted a radio show every day. And a huge number of listeners to that radio show were from the rural parts of our city. They were members of the agricultural community. They lived in rural villages, and they were constantly, calling into the show and offering their opinions and raising their voices and talking about their way of life, because they wanted to make sure that that was not overlooked as decisions were made at City Hall and on Parliament Hill. They wanted to make sure that, as you all know, countries like Canada, the population has increasingly become urbanized. More and more people are living in cities rather than in rural communities, and they wanted to make sure that even as that change was happening, their concerns, their needs, their way of life was not being overlooked. And we needed to preserve that way of life. So when I ran for mayor in 2022, I made it clear that I wanted to support rural communities and that I wanted to make sure their way of life was preserved. And I'm very proud to say that if you look at the vote break, I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying, just so you understand how it split up, I got in the election, I got about 35 to 40% there were 14 people running for mayor, by the way.
What a challenge.
Yeah, I got about 35 to 40% of the vote in the urban part of the city, and I got about 50 to 60% of the vote in the suburban part of the city, and I got between 70 and 80% of the vote in the rural part of the city. So I'm very proud of that.
That's very clear with.
I was very well supported by rural residents in the last election, and I think a large part of that was because I had a deep concern for rural issues, and I spent a lot of time in those communities during the election campaign, and I have done since as well. We held a rural summit 2 years ago. It was the first rural summit we'd had in Ottawa in about 16, 17 years, where we listened to the voices of rural residents and asked them what we could do differently. And as a result of that, we made a number of different changes. And some of them are very practical things about how we manage rural roads and ditching and how we handle stormwater in rural communities versus urban communities. And some of them are governance related, and we have an agriculture and rural affairs committee at City Hall. So there's about 6 or 7 different standing committees that deal with transportation and transit and finance and community services. And we have a rural and agricultural affairs committee. So we entrusted them with more responsibility as an outcome of that rural summit. And more issues go through that committee before they go to the full city council. But the number one message that I wanted to come out of that rural summit was that we're not taking a one-size-fits-all approach to our decisions in Ottawa. We're not making decisions downtown and imposing them on rural residents. We're using a different approach when it comes to rural decisions compared to urban decisions, and we want to strike a balance. We want a strong, vibrant downtown core. We want healthy suburban communities, and we also want strong rural villages and agricultural communities as well.
That's very interesting that you mention it right now, because my next question was actually going to be, how do you balance the needs of rural residents with those of suburban and urban residents? But I think you've answered that, because you seem to have an ear, you seem to have an interest, and you listen, and thereby it is possible to balance those needs. But then—
I could mention one more thing, if you don't mind, Magdi.
I won't mind. I'd love to hear.
The other important thing is we have a city council of 25. So I serve on city council, and there's 24 city councilors who represent different parts of the city. Each represents their own ward, and 5 of them represent rural communities in our city, or have a significant rural component to their ward. So we have some very strong voices in those wards that are are voting on city council and serve on the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee. And so that's another way that we make sure that rural residents are heard and understood and their concerns are listened to, and that those voices are brought to the decision making we make at City Hall.
You certainly know how to go about, but then I would like to ask you, you are talking about the residents in general, but then how do you include the voices of rural women in council deliberations?
So I mentioned there's 5 rural councillors. 2 of them are women, and they are very strong voices on our council. Again, I spend a lot of time in the rural community, in the various rural communities that make up Ottawa. And there's many different villages, and I visit farms and I visit rural fairs and events almost every weekend, and meet with farmers. There's a lot of very strong women in agricultural businesses in our city. And so we stay connected and we talk to them as much as possible and make sure their voices are heard. And, I think of, rural life is family life, right? I mean, farms are family businesses. Agricultural businesses are typically family businesses, especially in our area. And so, there's it doesn't matter whether, one person is technically owns the business. It's the whole family that's involved in the business, right? So we make sure that we're serving the needs of all the members of those family businesses. And we have some, great examples of multi-generational family farms and agricultural businesses in our city.
Yes, and I think our audience can really resonate with that, because many of us are farmers' wives, and we are involved what's going on the farm. And what you say, it's actually like having it all come together. But now, having said that, as you know, this is the year of the women farmer. Can you tell us a little bit more about your engagement with women farmers? Have you met some of them who are really involved in that way, being the farmer? And what about that which you consider stands out in your mind?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say I'm very impressed to see this large group of people from all over the world here, women in farming and agriculture. It's great to see. And, when I think back to when I met 2 years ago with Tish in London, and this event was being conceived and planned, and she was describing, what the long history of this organization, 97 years now, right? Something like that.
Yeah, very close to 100 years.
Yeah. So, just the history of the organization and the strength of the organization, I was very impressed. So to see all of you, so many women in farming and agriculture here at our event here in Ottawa is amazing. I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of women in farming. There's just a couple of months ago, I went on a tour of a tomato and cucumber farm. It's a year-round operation, so they do some indoor climate-controlled farming and some traditional farming. And it was great to see. This was a woman who had made a decision to purchase this business from a family that was retiring from farming, and she was very entrepreneurial and had moved to our region and wanted to take over this business. So I've had the opportunity to meet several women like that who are running farms, and it's it's very inspiring for me. One of the other things that I did, I mentioned I worked in the media before I became a politician. I also was an entrepreneur. And I worked with a lot of other entrepreneurs. I coached and mentored a lot of entrepreneurs, and many of them were women in business, not in the agricultural world, but I'm a big supporter of women entrepreneurs. And so when I meet women in agriculture who are running farms and agricultural businesses, I'm especially delighted to see women in some non-traditional roles, which is very inspiring.
And just for interest's sake, so a farmer like this woman you are referring to, she'll grow the cucumbers And will there be a market for her locally, or are you involved in seeking markets in another way?
A huge percentage of her business was serving the local market. So that's, and we're, as you know, there's been more and more of a trend towards locally grown food. And I know the grocery stores in our area have made that a priority. So they're trying to source local produce as much as possible. But I also have met with many farmers in our area who serve a much wider geography. That they're, we have lots of chicken and beef farmers in our community who serve markets well beyond Ottawa.
Yes. Well, we just commented last night, and since we've been here, about the very good quality of food that we've been served in this hotel.
Okay.
Fresh.
Glad to hear that.
And, good to know. Now I understand, locally produced. Yeah.
And I hear you had a very nice meal last night at the Museum of History.
Oh,
is that right?
It was
good.
just exquisite. And
Beautiful museum.
oh, yes, the backdrop to be there with the history, and we were also entertained by local people with music and dancing. We really enjoyed and experienced another part of what Ottawa can offer. And again, that was just very good to do that.
Great.
Yes, like you mentioned, ACWW selected Ottawa as the host city for this Triennial World Conference. And you mentioned those discussions started quite a few years ago, and we kept it up, and you went to London and you met with our office staff there. When we started these negotiations, why was it important for you to welcome us to Ottawa?
I was, I'll be honest, before the team at Ottawa Tourism told me about the prospect of hosting this event, I didn't know a lot about the organization, and not something I would have known a lot about, of course. And I was very intrigued. And first of all, just as I mentioned earlier, the long history of the organization. And when you think about, the technology we have at our disposal today, you and I were speaking a few minutes ago about how you can have board meetings on Zoom now.
Yes.
Going back even 15 years, that wouldn't have been possible, but let alone, 90 years.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by, how a worldwide organization of this nature, would have functioned in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. It would be fascinating to know more about that. I guess this gavel has been around for the whole experience. But what I saw as first of all, we love welcoming people from all over the world to our city. We love welcoming events. It's great for tourism and our visitor economy and local business. So to have an event of this size is really exciting for us. But in particular, I saw it as an opportunity to really highlight the rural and agricultural nature of Ottawa. And again, many of the events that come to our city are, they're international events of that there'd be, let's say an engineering group or a group of high-tech people or that sort of thing. But knowing as much as I do about how Ottawa's history is rural and agricultural, the opportunity to host an event like this with women from all over the world who know that way of life and are sharing that journey together, I saw that as a great fit for Ottawa. So I was really excited about supporting.
No, I'm pleased to hear that, because that is exactly what we are experiencing here. This amazing city with everything it has to offer, and then also knowing about what is going on in the rural part of Ottawa. Really, really interesting. So I think I would like to, if we have a time, say 3 minutes, to open the floor, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Is there anything you would like to ask the mayor? I am in this privileged position to sit here with him in my living room, but you are invited, like we used to do on Zoom. Remember when you were able to speak to me while I was sitting there? perhaps there's a question or a comment anybody would like to make?
Any questions about Ottawa?
Over here. Yes, please.
There's a woman over there.
This member of ours, honorable member, is from the Cameroon, and
welcome.
we'd love to receive your question, please.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to find out whether in your council, how many...
Sorry, ma'am. Please come and use the microphone.
I think there's a microphone over there.
Oh, there's one. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We close, yeah.
May we know how many people are in the council? Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I need to...
People are on our council, yeah. So there's...
Question I want to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many members do you have in your council?
Yeah, there's 25 in total, including me, so 24 wards, and then I serve the entire city, and 5 of those 24 come from the rural communities.
Okay. There are 25. How many women and how many men?
Great question. I'm trying to remember the number because it changed. There was somebody resigned and there was a by-election. I think it's around 9 or 10 women, I believe. I think it's 10 women and
15 men.
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
so there's no equality, but you have tried to put 10 women.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have,
You have-
I'll tell you, let me mention a couple of things from Ottawa's. So first of all, Ottawa was the first major city in North America to have a woman as mayor. In the 1950s, there was a woman named Charlotte Whitten, who was the mayor of Ottawa. There had been mayors of smaller communities before that who were women, but Ottawa was the first major city to have a woman as mayor. And we have a lot of women in leadership roles at the city. Our city manager, which is the top bureaucratic position of the city, basically the person who runs the entire organization, our 17,000 employees. I hired the first woman ever to be in that role shortly after I became mayor, and many of the members of the senior leadership team are women as well.
Well,
Excellent. Then
thank
you are
you.
an exception.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
you certainly provide the right answer.
I am a big supporter of women in leadership roles, and
thank you.
very big supporter. And like I said, I coached a lot of women CEOs and entrepreneurs in the past.
And no, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have one more question over here, a second one there.
Yeah,
You can
there is a
use the
microphone.
microphone over there on the floor, please. There's a microphone. No, you're on the spot. And remember, it's all over the world because we're so happy to have members from all over the world who is also online in this conference.
Okay,
So
amazing.
please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question or comment, really, Mayor Sutcliffe. I'm from rural Nova Scotia, the wonderful east coast of this great country that we live in. Mine is it's kind of a question, but yesterday on our tours, we all went out to different areas of the Ottawa region on tours, and I went out to the farm that helps with the reforestation of Ottawa within the urban centres, and I noticed in many areas the trees that were planted and everything. I wonder if you could speak to the effort to bring that back into like city limits, right? Central limits on that.
Yeah. So one of the only promises that I made in 2022 when I ran for mayor that I'm probably not going to be able to keep is the reason I won't be able to keep it is because it was a very ambitious promise. I promised that we were going to plant 1 million trees in the next 4 years. We're probably going to plant between 500 and 600,000 trees in the time that I've been mayor so far, but not 1 million. But we're going to keep going. We will plant 1 million trees. We just won't have done it within 4 years. But yeah, it's a significant concern that as our city grows, and by the way, Ottawa has a population of about 1.1 million people, and we're projected to grow to about 1.6 million people by 2050. So in the next 25 years, another 500,000 people. So what I think about is, when I was a teenager, the population of Ottawa was about 500,000 people. That's the number of people who are going to move to the city in the next 25 years. This is the whole city when I was a kid.
Amazing.
And so there's a lot of growth happening, new homes being built, and we're losing that urban canopy. So we need to work very, very hard to sustain it and replace it. And we've had issues with, losing trees to disease and other challenges like that. So we have a very concerted effort to plant a lot of trees in our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's remarkable, I think, for a politician to actually admit that it might be possible for him not to keep to his promise.
Yeah.
But I think we actually appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Let's see if the people of Ottawa appreciate it when I run for re-election. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Hello, World President and Mayor. Thank you very much for being here. At the show last night, the gala, we saw our Indigenous people showing off their talents and their background. What is the background of the rest of the population? You say 1 million. What about the other cultures that are moving into this area, their ethnic and their religions? How is that melding in Ottawa?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So Ottawa is a very welcoming city, and I always talk about how my parents were immigrants to Canada. They each moved here separately in the 1950s and met here. We are, we are a population that has been driven by immigration. In Canada, our population would not grow if it were not for new people arriving in the country. So the population of Ottawa has changed dramatically. The demographics of Ottawa have changed dramatically over my lifetime in the city. It's a much more ethnically and culturally diverse city than it was when I was a child. We have a lot of immigration coming to our city from Africa right now, particularly from French-speaking countries in Africa, because we're a bilingual city. There's a significant French population in our city. It's changing a lot. And we're the capital of Canada. We're a world capital. So we have people from all over the world in our city, people who work we have more than 130 different foreign missions and embassies in our city. We have a very significant technology industry that draws employees from all over the world, from Asia, from Europe. So it's a very, very diverse community now. Very much so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, as much as I would like us to continue this interesting talk and having you here in our midst, in conclusion, I'd like to ask you, what makes you most proud to be the mayor of Ottawa?
That's a tough question, because there are so many things that make me proud. I feel very lucky to live in this city. I love it. It's my hometown. And as I mentioned, my parents moved here as immigrants. I've always felt very fortunate that I was born here and have lived my whole life in Ottawa. Really the best part of my job is the fact that I get to meet so many terrific people in our community. And it is a very diverse community geographically, but it's a very united community. People, I talked the other day about our kindness initiative that we
you
launched.
mentioned it, yes.
We're a very kind and welcoming city, very charitable city where neighbors look out for neighbors. As one example, I was just messaging with one of my colleagues on Ottawa City Council a few minutes ago. Every year at this time, we're with communities along the Ottawa River, there's a risk of homes being flooded because the snow is melting, the water levels are rising. And every year we deal with the challenges of some residences being flooded. And you see every year you know, neighbors coming out and filling sandbags and blocking the water and offering their homes to other people and bringing food, you know, to their neighbors. There's just such a spirit of neighbors helping neighbors, and you know that's you know, that's inherent in the rural and agricultural way of life. You know, it happens to be true in the urban and suburban parts of Ottawa too, but we know that you know, that sort of is deeply rooted in the way people live in rural communities. That, you know, if piece of equipment breaks down on your farm, that you know, a neighboring farm is going to help you out and support you, and vice versa, right? And if you're having a tough year and you need some help, your neighbors are going to help. Or if you need, you know, in the old days, you know, a barn burns down, the neighbors are all going to come and help you build the new barn, right? So that's the spirit that we have in Ottawa. It's a very, very warm and friendly and neighborly community where everyone helps each other.
Yes, I can understand that. That can make you very proud.
Yes,
really,
it does.
really.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, it was really lovely sitting here with you. Thank you very much for giving us the time. And I would very much like to ask our Executive Director, Tish Collins, to present you with a gift, a book which is the history of ACWW. And if you would like to accept that as our way of being kind to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you again for choosing Ottawa, and thank you for what you do in your communities and in your countries. And it's been really special to have this event in Ottawa. Been really great to get to know you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you. Do you want to be in the picture? Yeah.
Okay.
Come on. Here we go. One. Oh, sure.
It's not the report of work in it.
Okay.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you very much for indulging with us in having this way of having a speaker. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Instead of somebody just standing here and showing slides, it was actually a very nice interactive time together. I'm pleased that you enjoyed it. I would really like to ask you to work together with me, because we can't leave the building, this room, because we have already established our voting strength. But we need just, I think, 5 minutes for the team to just rearrange the stage. But please use that time and just visit with your neighbor. Just now, you may speak. You know, I'm giving you the opportunity to just have a nice speech, and I'm calling the technical team